A Million Little Things, episode 3, Letting Go. Okay. So let's just kind of get this out in the open, even though I know I said this before, but it's just a glaring problem that just keeps on going for some odd reason. And this is Maggie. So I said yesterday, I said the last time, I don't know, I think I remember saying this the last time, but I was like, if I see this woman in the same place again, in the same exact apartment, I swear I'm gonna lose my shit. And yep. We're she's in the same apartment. I don't really understand why. I don't understand a lot of the things about what they're doing with this character. I don't understand why she's still in the show. I think her journey should have ended once she went to the UK. Her whole journey, her whole story should have ended, and maybe, when another season come back, she can come, another season come on, she can come back. But this whole separate side story BS, I'm just not really a fan of. Let's talk about it a little bit. So she's doing this whole new yes to everything. And she's doing, bungee diving and all sorts of stuff. And, even when I read the description, Maggie is, continuing her self-discovery journey. And I'm just like, and this means what? How does this move the storyline as a larger whole? Like, okay, cool, so she's doing that, and that means what? And this is literally what she's doing in this episode. She's trying all this new stuff that we don't get to see. God, I just don't understand. But yes, towards the end, she winds up hooking up with a roommate. And I'm just like, first of all, I knew this coming. I saw this coming from the first episode. From the first episode, I knew this was coming. So it wasn't like it was a huge surprise. Episode 3, she hooks up with a roommate. Now, I'm not going to sit there and try to, count all the different ways that that's a bad idea of her hooking up with a roommate, because she clearly hasn't gotten over Gary, or the little sly comment that she said in the episode before. And, she has a good friendship with this guy. Why ruin it? But I guess, that causes drama and yada yada yada. So yeah, that's going on with that. So with Eddie, towards the midpoint of this episode, the driver of who everyone thinks hit Eddie comes over, and he explains what really happened all those years ago. And he explains that, his daughter didn't die because Eddie was too drunk to not save her. She died because her sister gave her drugs and she had a bad reaction to it. Also, well, he didn't hit Eddie. He saw the person that did hit Eddie, and he tried to chase after them. He also called 911, and when he went back, I have to tell you what I remember. I think at that point, the ambulance came and, took care of Eddie. So, yeah. So, we got the first part of that story, but not the second part. I guess we'll get that towards the end. Here's the thing. I'm thinking that it's the sister. I'm thinking that it's the sister that hit Eddie. That's just my guess. Now, Delilah spends the entire episode getting ready. That's it. So while Gary is, picking up some of the slack or whatever, picking up Danny from school and stuff like that, somewhere along the lines of this episode, he realized that Danny has a bully, and he tells Danny to confront him, which kind of ends up badly because the bully want to punch him in the face. And later on in the episode, the bully comes over, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, my dad wanted me to come over there to apologize." And he said, I'm not gonna lie, he says some really like fucked up stuff. But as far as like, oh, your dad would be ashamed of you, and that's why he killed himself. And I was like, whoa, wow, that's damn. But towards the end, the bully tells him like, his sister died or whatever, of depression, and that's probably why he was upset with Danny. They say hurt people hurt people. So I'm guessing that's pretty much why. But after that, Danny made up, and he was like, I was come up to my room and play some video games or whatever. So he worked it out. At first, when when they got to the house and Delilah saw Danny's like bloody nose or whatever, I felt like she was about to freak out. And when Danny was sitting there talking to the bully, Gary was like, I'm sorry I didn't tell you, but I wanted him to feel like he can handle it on his own, because he's gonna, throughout life he's gonna be facing all sorts of challenges, and he has to feel empowered that he can kind of just, handle himself. So, Delilah said it was the right call, and, it worked out. Now, earlier with Eddie, he was talking to Darcy. I'm not gonna lie, I actually had to sit there, and it took me a couple minutes to find her name, because I guess whenever you say it, it just kind of goes over my head. But he was talking to Darcy, and he was like, how come I, didn't meet your son yet? And she explains why, because that's kind of a touchy like thing, as far as like meeting, her son. But towards the end, she feels like it's time because of how he took care of the whole Danny situation. But she's also doing PT with Eddie, and throughout the episode she explains why. Besides the fact that Catherine's her friend, and he cheated on her, but also I brought up some stuff from her past as far as like stuff that her dad did to her mother, which is probably another reason why she was so like angry with him. What else? Rome and Regina. So Rome seems like he has a lot of like anger bottled up inside, and he's walking with, I guess, I have no idea, somebody who works for him. And they pass, they're walking, and I guess they're like scouting as far as like location and stuff. And of course his actress calls them, talking about she has more notes and stuff like that she wants to go over with him, as far as just changing this script and stuff. So like he's dealing with her, and that's already annoying. And the stuff that's going on with Regina, on top of that, he's like scouting for locations and stuff like that, and there's a guy who is just letting his dog just shit without actually picking it up. And he sees that, and he looks at him like, yo, are you serious? Like, you're not going to pick that up? And, the guy just kind of gives him the casual attitude of, oh, well, it's not really my girlfriend, it's my dog's girlfriend, I don't have anything, so, whatever. And, this is from Rome, goes from like 4 to 11, and he starts yelling at him. He picks up some out the garbage, he's like, throws it at him. And that's when the guy's like, yo, this, like, relax, B, you taking this way too far. So, Rome winds up going to therapy. And, he's talking about, well, the therapist is basically sitting there saying, like, you need to sit there and work on your anger. You need to find an outlet because, having all that stuff bottled up, isn't good. Now, Rome is there talking about how, he's having resentment with Regina. He's having issues with this whole, model and stuff like that. And it's more towards the model, I think, is like a side thing, but it's more towards Regina and the baby and not actually having one. And, he's still mad at, the girl, for changing her mind. And I'm not gonna lie, that sucks. That sucks ass. Now, there's something that Rome said, and I felt like it was somewhat out of context with the show. So he pretty much says that, as a black man, you have to kind of keep your anger in check because, you can either wind up hurting someone or you can wind up being dead. And, I understood what he was saying, and he made a very good point, but it had nothing to do with the show. So I was just like, all right, that's very insightful, and that's very true. But what does this have to do with the show? It was one of those things that was just like so out of left field. And, the doctor commented, the therapist commented on that, as a black man and stuff like that. I get it. And this is when he sits there and says, you have to have that energy go somewhere. Otherwise, you're right back where you start, depression and stuff. But, yeah, just literally out of nowhere, that just made no sense as far as the story goes. Now, at some point with Regina, Gary Smith they're texting, and he messed up during his text, and somehow it got back to Regina that, she's feeling pretty delicate, and this is the reason why, Delilah asked Gary to, babysit the kids, because, of her situation. Somehow he wound up texting Regina that, and she was like, yo, are you serious? Now Regina Smith they're talking to Maggie, which is in halfway around the world, another time zone, just to give Maggie more screen time at this point. But also, I guess a little bit, that's pretty much her only friend that she could sit there and talk to about this, because in some sort of way, she probably is having a little bit of issue with Delilah, seeing her kids, seeing her baby and stuff like that, and Catherine. I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I feel like it's really difficult probably to talk to her. Like, she comes across as, I'm not gonna lie, a little kind of cold and unapproachable. So she doesn't really have much options of people that she could sit there and talk to. So I guess it does make sense to talk to Maggie. And she's sitting there talking about how she's having issues with Rome and stuff like that. And that's when she gets a text. So at some point she goes over to Delilah's place. And she goes to Delilah's place, and she pretty much tells her that, she's having issues as far as, like, jealousy of seeing her and a baby and, with Rome and everything like that. And towards the end of the episode, she winds up meeting Rome at the first place that they, had their date. And, they talk. And, Rome talks about his issues a little bit. And, this is when, I actually forgot her name for a second. Regina decides to reach out to the girl that changed her mind. And they start talking and, even offering her the baby stuff that they got. They were going to give it to, I can't even remember her damn name, to be honest. But it seemed like they were pretty friendly and pretty cordial. And I gotta sit there and say, that is amazing. That's amazing, because there's not a lot of people that can do that. Even if you are willing to, like, move forward and, like, move on, I don't know a lot of people that could sit there and want to talk to her and be on somewhat friendly terms after all that. And granted, it's no one's fault. This isn't anyone's fault. Like, this isn't even her fault. This is even, like, the mother's fault. Because, I mean, you do have a right to change your mind. And with everything being said, it sucks that she had to do that. But it's better for her to change her mind than for her to give up that baby to them. And then, you know, resent it and resent herself and everything else. So, it makes sense. And yeah, that's just the, that's gonna do it. That's gonna do it for the recap. I'm not gonna lie, it was actually pretty interesting. Again, the only things that I'm really not liking is the whole Maggie story, because, like, again, what's the point? You know? She's going through all this stuff, and I think that's pretty great if you're a fan of a character, but she moved halfway across the world, and it's like she has no interaction besides phone conversations with the rest of the cast, but besides that, that's really about it. So her stuff that she does is a completely separate side story. And the fact that every time that we see this character, she's in the same damn place. Like, they don't have a pub that they can go to or something. Like, I just, it's so dumb. It's so stupid. And then towards the end, she just winds up hooking up with her roommate. And then you see it in the previews, you know, she's talking to her roommate, and she's like, you know, she doesn't want anything serious, and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, you probably should have said that before, you know, you invited this man in your bed. Just a thought, you know. But now all that awkward tension comes up, and you gotta live together, and it creates so much more of a mess. And I'm just like, why couldn't you just find any other guy out there? You have a whole country that you could sit there and explore of men, and you pick the one guy that you have to sit there and live with day in and day out. Like, why? Just why? And yeah, towards the end, she made, you know, she did her podcast or whatever, and I mean, I thought it was pretty good, like her, you know, the stuff that she was sitting there saying about how, you know, she's, you know, now she's living, and, you know, she's doing stuff, and she doing all the stuff that she wanted to do when she beat cancer and stuff, and I think that's very great and very inspirational. But I'm also just like, why does this stuff matter? Like, I mean, it matters in that content as far as like giving people hope and all that good stuff, and I'm all for that, but just her character being there makes absolutely no damn sense. And I just feel like it's just more problematic than like good. Like, if we cut her scenes out, I'm pretty sure this episode would have probably been like maybe a half an hour or 40 minutes or 45 minutes less. Literally. Anyway, with that being said, I'm gonna go. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of this episode. Did you like it? And yeah. The finale is gonna be next week. I gotta give him props because he kept going. And I understand that, you know, different production teams is doing something different, but like, This Is Us isn't coming back until January. Like, what the hell? But, you know, whatever. It is what it is. I guess they didn't bother to do the whole COVID thing that they said they was gonna do. Literally in the first episode, I could have swore they was talking about like COVID-19 or whatever, and they just decided to not even go with that for some odd reason. So what was the point of even bringing it up?